There are some plants that simply make Christmas what it is. So whether you're looking for the perfect gift or for something to brighten your own home, these are my 12 favourite plants for Christmas. I'm starting at number 12 with the one that actually doesn't look much like a plant at all, because at the moment all it is a bulb. The Hippeastrum amaryllis. It comes in a box. Here's a double crimson one, and here a lovely striped white and pink variety. The origins of the name amaryllis are rooted in mythology, but it's meant to symbolise perseverance and renewal, which means it's a good plant to think about at Christmas. Pot it, but make sure that the top half of the bulb is sticking out of the compost, and the compost needs to be barely moist. Stand it on a windowsill. It's perfectly happy in centrally heated rooms, and wait, and eventually that flower spike, looking like an agricultural show loudspeaker, will emerge from the top of the bulb. An absolute corker. At number 11, the most famous Christmas shrub of all, the holly. Tough as old boots, it'll grow in almost any soil, in sun or shade. And you know the carol, the holly and the ivy? When they're both full grown, of all the trees that are in the wood, the holly bears the crown. The holly is meant to symbolise Christ, and the ivy, the Virgin Mary, because she cared for Christ. At number 10, a very popular plant, cyclamen. Oh, there's a bee come, look, isn't that nice? Bees at this time of year, they like cyclamen almost as much as I do. Cyclamen love it cool and they love it bright. They're not wild about central heating, and they're not wild about being kept too soggy. So if I were you, I'd put this plant on a windowsill. If you want to be really safe, wait until it just starts to wilt because that compost is dry. Then give it a soak. You can keep it in a saucer if you want, fill the saucer with water and let it soak it up. But then don't water it again until it's slightly dry. At number 9, the gloriously fragrant hyacinth. The hyacinth has been associated with Christmas since Victorian times, because it was the Victorians who forced them into bloom early, and that meant we could enjoy the fragrance at Christmas. This is the stage at which to buy them in your local nursery or garden centre or store, when the flowers have left the bulb and are beginning to show colour. If they're too far down in there and they're green, then the leaves can grow too fast, the centre can topple over. When the buds like this, the clusters have cleared those bulbs, you can see what we call this neck here, then it's safe to bring them in. This whole flower spike will emerge, fatten up, and it'll be like a great big Christmas drumstick. Bright blue in this case, and you won't need an air freshener in your rooms over Christmas. This will take over from the turkey. At number 8, the hellebore, the Christmas rose. This is not a rose at all, but we've always called this the Christmas rose because it's in bloom at Christmas. So this is not a house plant, this is a plant for outdoors. If you have a table outside your window, you can stand it on the table and enjoy these flowers in all but the bitterest of weather. They may go down when it's really frosty, but they'll pick up again as soon as it becomes milder once more. And then you can plant it out in the garden and really enjoy it in future years. Anybody would be happy with this gift, especially my friendly bumblebee. At number 7, let's think about Christmas dinner. Let's think about stuffing. Thyme. It's really a hardy plant, so it grows best outside. It's tough as old boots, quite an evergreen. You can see how strong it is in the stem. And if you grow it outside, grow it near the kitchen door, because then, whatever the weather, you can nip out and get a bit of it to chop up and use in your stuffing for the Christmas goose, the Christmas turkey, whatever it is you're having. It's a good, flavoursome herb, and it absolutely reeks of Christmas. Glorious. At number 6, a particular favourite of mine, the Christmas azalea. Now this is the Indian azalea, Azalea indica. It's not fully hardy in this country, so it's grown as a houseplant. The important thing about this plant is that you do not ever let it dry out. You'll find it's in very fibrous compost, and it likes to be kept constantly damp. This is a soft, dusky red one. I had one a couple of years ago that I potted up because its flowers were such a glorious colour. And it's this one in a large terracotta pan that I've kept going. What they also need when you pot them on is ericaceous compost that hasn't got lime or chalk in it, an acid compost. And don't you just love that flower? That's why I'm so fond of it. And the Christmas connection? Well, it flowers at Christmas, and it's grown to sell at Christmas, and that'll do for me. One thing that isn't a part of my 12 plants for Christmas, but really ought to be because I love it at Christmas, are my topiary yews, these cones I've clipped. If you string little tiny fairy lights round them, they look absolutely glorious. Christmas trees, yew trees and box trees that last all the year round, but particularly come into their own in the festive season. At number 5, rosemary. Now you may think this is rather like the thyme, it's just a Christmas herb, perfect for roast lamb. It is, nothing wrong with that at all, but it does have a Christmas association. The Virgin Mary allegedly dried the clothes of the infant Jesus on a rosemary bush in the sun, and it was known then as the Rose of Mary. And you know, when it's grown in this sort of shape, with some of those tiny little fairy lights on it, the Rose of Mary becomes rather a nice little Christmas tree, don't you think? Number 4 is this little beauty here. This is the Christmas cactus. The Christmas cactus blooms at this time of year, hence its common name. But the amount of bud on this, these flowers extend and the petals come back. There's a series of sort of stacked petals on it. They can be white, or in this case, this more common sort of cerise pink. It likes a position in reasonably good but not brilliant sunshine, and keep that compost moist only when it starts to dry out. And then you'll see that these flattened stems stay nice and plump. It does really well if you get several of them and plant them in a hanging basket. When I worked in the parks department, we had one big basket and the plant cascaded over the sides, and we used to hang it with great pride in the town hall every Christmas. At number 3, the bay tree. This is Laurus nobilis. You know when you see a statue or a painting or an engraving of Julius Caesar and he's got this sort of crown of foliage around his head? It's this, it's the bay, the Victor's bay. And of course, from our point of view in the garden, it's a glorious evergreen with this wonderful aroma when you crush it, and brilliant in cooking. It's a wonderful Christmas plant. This one especially wrapped for Christmas in a little hessian bag with a red ribbon. At number 2, one of our most popular houseplants, the moth orchid. This is Phalaenopsis. It is now so popular, you may think, oh, I never want to see another one, but it's great to give as a present, particularly for someone who lives in a warm flat or a house, because it does quite well with central heating. It's a plant from warmer climes than ours. The thing to do is to make sure it's got plenty of buds coming at the end of the stem. This one here is now in full flower, but if you buy one where the end of the stem has got lots of buds on it, then you know it's going to last for weeks on end. When it comes to watering, you can run water through this pot here, which is full of bark chips, let it drain, but then you don't need to do that any more than once every week or 10 days. It is a handsome plant, very statuesque, and it does feel very exotic and sophisticated. You think, oh, that's rather a nice present. At number 1, the plant that everybody associates with Christmas, the poinsettia. Now, if somebody says they're lovely red flowers, no, they're not. They're lovely red bracts, because the flowers are these tiny little things in the centre. These are just coloured leaves. The leaves closest to the flower colour up. In this case, the traditional scarlet come crimson come red poinsettia. We also get them nowadays in bright pink like this, and also speckled. When you buy your poinsettia, always buy it from somewhere warm, a garden centre or nursery for preference, but even in the stores they will have been kept warmer than they would outside on a street display. It really should be wearing a sombrero, being from Mexico, not a woolly scarf. What they love best is being stood on a tin tray with gravel on it that can be kept moist, and that way the evaporation of the water will keep the environment around them really pleasantly humid. The association with Christmas, there are lots of little legends, but the one I like is that the arrangement of these brightly coloured bracts at the top is representative of the Star of Bethlehem. Isn't that glorious? So whether you have a garden or an apartment, and whether that apartment is warm or on the cool side, there is something in the Christmas firmament of plants and flowers that will suit you down to the ground. For me, give me a nice plant of holly in the garden, and I'm a happy man. Happy Christmas. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's supported the channel this year, and to wish you the most wonderful Christmas. If you haven't yet subscribed, just click below. There's plenty more content to come over the next year.